Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurmamritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Tena Mam Bhahi Nityam Tena Mam Bhahi Nityam. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourself, O Lord, and protect us evermore from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Om Vishnurva Tripurantako Bhavatu Va Brahma Surindro Dhava Bhanurva Shashalakshanota Bhagavan Buddhota Siddhota Va Ragadvesha Visharti Moha Rahita Sattvanukampodhyato Yassarvai Saha Samskrito Gunaganais Tasmai Namah Sarvada. The Supreme Reality and its messengers are known by various names in various traditions. But as for me, I offer my worship always to the one going by any name and belonging to any tradition, who is free from attachment and hatred, free from worldliness and delusion, who is filled with compassion towards all living beings, and who is possessed of all noble virtues. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So this morning the topic is Dark Mother Always Gliding Near. And the reference, for those who don't know it, will be clear in a moment. This was a talk I was supposed to give on last Sunday when we had Kali Puja. But as devotees reminded me as the day came closer, we needed Sunday to get ready for the Kali Puja, and that the lecture in the morning and the puja in the evening would be too much for all of us, myself included. So we canceled the lecture last Sunday, had the puja, and we had over 100 people come for the puja, which was a surprise, a pleasant surprise to all of us. Many of our regular devotees were not here, out of town, or otherwise engaged. Still, we had well over 100 people, so that was very nice. A very nice night. So, this statement, Dark Mother Always Gliding Near, is from a poem by Walt Whitman. Swami Vivekananda once was, I forget where he was. It was so many years ago I read this particular incident. But the incident itself I remember well, just not the circumstances of where and which year. But it would have been in the mid-1890s, I think. Someone found him in their library, where Swamiji, when traveling around the country, would stay in homes around the country. And so someone saw him in their library, the library of the house, reading a book, and they went up to him to see what he was reading. And Swamiji said, I'm reading Leaves of Grass. And he said, Walt Whitman was the American sannyasi. Was the American sannyasi. So that's an interesting statement, that Walt Whitman was the American sannyasi. And if you read Walt Whitman, you find that, yes, he was a sannyasi, not in the traditional sense that he took sannyasa. He didn't walk around in orange clothes, but he embodied very much the spirit of sannyasa. Now, there were some, like the great Swami Ashokananda, whom I have great respect for. I read anything and listen to anything I can of Swami Ashokananda's, who passed away right at the time when I joined the order. And I still remember that a couple of weeks after I joined, the head of our center, Swami Bhashyanandaji, he had to go to San Francisco for the memorial service for Swami Ashokananda. So Swami Ashokananda, he wrote long back in an editorial when he was in the Prabuddha Bharata. I think it was there, maybe it was in the Voice of India, one or the other. He wrote rather critically of Walt Whitman, and said that it was interesting that Swami Vivek, or it was significant that Swamiji said that he was the sannyasi of America and not the illumined soul of America, because Swami Ashokananda was rather critical of Whitman's more controversial verses. But I'm not so sure of that. I don't think that Swamiji was making such a strong distinction there. Swamiji wouldn't have said that had he not been highly impressed with Whitman. And the evidence of some sort of illumination which he had in his verses. So this particular statement comes in one of his poems, in his collection of poems called Leaves of Grass. There's some other writings of Whitman, including prose writings, but his main collection of poetry was Leaves of Grass, which he continued to update during the years. He first published it in 1855, and he sent it to, no, was it 1855? No, it couldn't have been, because it was after the Civil War. That must be wrong. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, somehow 1855 is stuck in my mind, but he sent a copy of his poems to Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Emerson wrote back high praise for it, saying that this was a new poetry for a new country. He spoke of him as the visionary of the new country, the United States, which at that time was only not a century old yet, not even 3/4 century old yet. So this particular poem was, or these verses are from a poem called When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed. And that was one of his most lyrical poems. He was one of the originator, really, of what we call free verse, where there was no effort to rhyme, there was no effort at strict rhythmical patterns and so forth. It was the language itself which was poetic, and the thought itself which was poetic. But When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed was his most lyrical of all of his poetry. Though again, it didn't fit into strict patterns of rhythm and rhyme. It was recognizable by anyone as poetry, whereas some of his poetry, people in his time criticized it as not being poetic at all. That particular poem, which is a long poem, which this selected verses, which I'll read to you in a moment, or one small part, was written in eulogy to Lincoln after the assassination of Lincoln. And so, yes, it must be 1855 that it was 1855. Yes, so I was not crazy, or I may be crazy, but I have the date right. So thank you. This is the value of Google. In fact, every speaker should have a Google prompt at his table to look things up. So that it was written in eulogy to Lincoln, whom he loved deeply. He had served soldiers, Union soldiers, during the Civil War as a nurse. Those who were injured in battle, many of whom he saw die in terrible states of dismemberment and so forth. And yet he was known for his extraordinarily loving service to the soldiers who were in the hospital. And so he had been through the experience of the Civil War, not as a soldier, but as a nurse for those who had been injured and dismembered, and many who died in the makeshift clinic. And then Lincoln himself was killed, whom Whitman adored. And so he was full with the thought of death, which he had experienced directly. And so this portion of the poem reads like this. And let me say that poetry in any language is always much more difficult than prose. Like when I not only hear Bengali songs, it's difficult for me to understand when I hear a Bengali song sung because of the music and the different rhythm and so forth of the words in a song. But even when I read a Bengali song, it's difficult to figure out the meaning, whereas the simple speech is much, much easier. And so with English. So even with Whitman, when his poetry is less structured than ordinary poetry or classical poetry, still it's a little difficult to understand when you don't have it in front of you. So he says, "Come, lovely and soothing death, undulate round the world, serenely arriving, in the day, in the night, to all, to each. Sooner or later, delicate death." So that's the first verse of this passage that I want to read. Again, part of a much longer poem, but a beautiful beginning. Come, lovely and soothing death. We don't think of death as lovely and soothing. In the day, in the night. Death comes at what time, we don't know. Sometimes in the day, sometimes in the night. We have no idea when death will come, but it's always hovering about. To all, to each. It comes to everyone, and yet it comes individually. It comes to us individually, and yet it comes to everyone. As is said, and as I have said, the one thing that can be predicted for everyone that is born is that we're going to die. We may not be able to predict anything else. We may not have the insight to predict anything else, but we can predict for everyone that death is coming. So sooner or later, delicate death. And all through these verses, you'll see this gentleness, this delicacy of his language. Praised be the fathomless universe. Yes, this vast, vast universe of countless distances, incomprehensible distances. Praised be the fathomless universe for life and joy and for objects and knowledge curious. Yes, praise be for life, which we all enjoy, and for objects, for all of the things that we see, all of the things that we use, all of the things that we enjoy, and for knowledge curious. Yes, the curiosity. That's a wonderful thing, the curiosity of knowledge. That's something that all children are born with, the desire to know, the desire to understand. As we grow older, sometimes we find ourselves becoming bored with life and bored with the universe. But no, that wonderful capacity of the fresh mind to be curious about everything. And that's something that you see in Whitman throughout his poetry and throughout his life. That freshness of mind, that freshness of perception. So praised be this fathomless universe for life and joy, and for objects and knowledge curious, and for love, sweet love. So praise be for love also. But praise, 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 3 times praise, for the sure enwinding arms of cool, enfolding death. So praise for life, praise for joy, praise for the objects of this world, praise for curious knowledge, or knowledge curious as he says it, and praise for love, sweet love. But then he says, praise, 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 for the sure enwinding arms of cool, enfolding death. Cool, enfolding death. So again, that image of gentleness, that motherly image of cool, enfolding death. And then comes the line from the title. Dark mother, always gliding near with soft feet, have none chanted for thee a chant of fullest welcome? So what a beautiful line. Again, addressing death as dark mother. So So Dark Mother, always gliding near with soft feet. Again, dressing death as mother. And the image of gliding near with soft feet. Always gliding near with soft feet. So not the image of the Grim Reaper. This hooded image we have of death, symbolic image of death, with a scythe that is that you harvest green with. You harvest wheat and rye and oat and other greens with, standing there darkly and somberly, waiting to harvest another soul. No, not that. Here, Dark Mother, always gliding near with soft feet. Have none chanted for thee a chant of fullest welcome? Who chants a chant for fullest welcome for death? We all try to escape it the best that we can. We run in the opposite direction. We try not to think of it. We try not to talk of it. Then I chant it for thee. I glorify thee above all. I bring thee a song that when thou must indeed come unfalteringly. So again, he says, this is not a poem of suicide. It has nothing to do with suicidal thoughts, suicidal emotions. It's when thou must indeed come, when you come of your own. So not saying, Mother, why don't you come now? I'm sick of life. No, it's nothing like that. No, praise be for this fathomless universe. Praise be for life. Praise be for joy, for objects, for knowledge curious. But when indeed thou must come, come unfalteringly. Come unfalteringly. Don't hesitate, because I am ready, and I will be ready when it's my time. So I bring thee a song that when thou must indeed come unfalteringly. So, and before that, then I chant a song of welcome for thee. I glorify thee above all. So yes, Gloria to the wonderful universe, to joy, to life, to knowledge, to experience. But above all, I sing a song of praise to thee, O death. Approach, strong deliveress. When it is so, when thou hast taken them, I joyously sing the dead. So approach, strong deliveress. When it's time, then come. And when it is so, when it is time, when you have taken them, that is, those whose time has come, because again, remember, he had been serving people in a military hospital, people in terrible conditions, and many of whom died, either directly from the wounds or from infections and so forth. And then the death of Lincoln, whom he loved so dearly. So when it is so, when thou hast taken them, I joyously sing the dead. Then I sing for the dead, those who have passed away. Lost in the loving, floating ocean of thee, you, O Dark Mother with soft feet, in the ocean which you are. Lost in the loving, floating ocean of thee. So addressing the mother as the floating ocean. Laved in the flood of thy bliss, O death. There's a beautiful Bengali song. I don't remember all of it. I used to sing it often in San Diego when I was in practice with singing songs, and especially Bengali songs. That goes, Shoshane Jagiche Shama. Mother Shama, Mother Kali is awake in this cremation ground. Santane Nite Kole, waiting to take her son onto her lap. So mother, and then it goes on to say that she wraps him in her cool cloth. So the soul that is, whose body is being cremated in the cremation ground. Mother Shama, Mother Kali, Dark Mother with soft feet, is seated there, ready to take onto her lap her child. From me to thee, glad serenades. Dances for thee, I propose saluting thee. The dances for thee, O death. Adornments and feastings for thee. And the sights of the open landscape and the high spread sky are fitting, and life and the fields and the huge and thoughtful night. So this is a fitting scene for thee, O death. Again, that recognizing the beauty of death. And again, without any, there's no morbidity in the song, in the poetry. There's no morbidity. There's no wishing for death because of sadness or because of being sick of life. No. Welcome life and welcome death. The night in silence under many a star, the ocean shore and the husky whispering wave whose voice I know, and the soul turning to thee, O vast and well-veiled death. Well-veiled death, because we don't see her coming. She's right here, and yet we don't see her. And the body gratefully nestling close to thee. That is the body of the one who is dying, nestling closely to thee. Over the treetops I float thee a song, over the rising and sinking waves, over the myriad fields and the prairies wide, over the dense-packed cities all, and the teeming wharves and ways, I float this carol with joy to thee, O death. So again, that's the end of this passage, but directly addressing death. Where did Whitman get the idea, oh death, dark mother, ever gliding near with soft feet? That's not a typical, I don't know of any reference in Western literature addressing death as dark mother. So what sort of experience he had. And that was too early to have been familiar with the idea of Kali. The translations of the Gita and Vishnu Purana and Manusmriti and some other Hindu works had come. Even Thomas Jefferson had in his library some works. Shakuntala, the translation of Shakuntala, and the Gita and some other works Thomas Jefferson himself had much earlier than Whitman. But and by this time, translations of Hindu works had been limited to more philosophical and strictly religious, more Western approachable religious thought, not ideas of Kali and so forth. So where he got this idea, I don't know. Once a man that I was close to, a Western man, an American, and a Christian by faith, he was on his deathbed, and he started asking people around him, who is that dark man over in the corner? Who is that dark man standing over in the corner? Which, of course, no one else saw. I didn't have the presence of mind to say, or I didn't want to say, that that's death waiting for you. It was, but we see death in different forms. But here, the vision of death as a dark mother. So again, Whitman, was he consciously addressing Mother Kali? I'm convinced, and it's just a conviction, there's no evidence or proof, that he must have had some experience, that there must have been some experience that related death to Mother Kali. And so Sister Nivedita, in her small book, Kali the Mother, she has at the top of one of the chapters this line, "Dark Mother always gliding near," from Whitman's poem. And so then the question comes, do we welcome her? Do we welcome her? Do we welcome death? Well, most of us know. What is it that we want? What is it that we want in life? From life, most of us want life itself. We want to live. We don't want to die. We want to escape death, and that's all right. That's the natural thing. We want life itself. We want to live. We want to continue this life. We also want happiness. We want happiness, and happiness in the form of possessions. We want our things. We want our loved ones. We want enjoyment, the pleasures of life, and we just want to be happy. Whatever the source, we just want to be happy. So we want life. We want happiness. We want success. We run from failure when we seek success. And again, these are natural things. I'm not criticizing any of them, but just drawing our attention to what it is that we want in life. We want to be successful. Does anybody try to fail? Actually, there are people who try to fail, and that itself is a sickness. That's worse than trying for success. I've known people who every time they were on the verge of success, people who had great talent in something, and they were on the verge of breaking through, and becoming well known for their talent, they themselves would sabotage themselves because they couldn't bear the responsibility of success. And so some people do seek failure because they're afraid of success. And but most of us seek success in life. We seek honor. We seek honor. We seek respect. That's the reason why in the four purusharthas, the four goals of human life, according to the Hindu Shastras, dharma is one of the four. Dharma, at first it was a mystery to me. Why would that be a purushartha, that people are seeking dharma, that is righteousness, as one of the ends of life? But then I realized, after thinking about it, that that is true. It's understandable that people are seeking pleasure, kama. People seek sense desire, fulfillment of sense desire. They seek pleasure. Yes, that's understandable. They seek artha, that is possession, the natural desire to possess, that this is mine. That was a great mistake in communism, that communism has some very high ideals. It's not generally recognized, but there were several fatal mistakes in communism as it has been conceived as a system for human governance and so forth, a system for ruling society. One of the mistakes was it was based on dialectical materialism. And if your philosophy is based on materialism, that this is all that there is, idealism is dead. Idealism is dead if this is all that there is. There's no place for idealism. And yet communism seeks to instill in people a high idealism of working for the greater good, sacrificing everything for the welfare of others. The society itself is the value, not the individual. So sacrifice the individual for the sake of society. That's a noble ideal. But in the presence of materialism, that's dead. It never gets off the ground. And the other fatal mistake was it tried to institutionalize and force people into a form of sacrifice which is unnatural to people. People want to possess for themselves. And communism said, no, the government, for the sake of the people, the government owns everything. And you are just given things for the time being. But no, people want to possess. People want freedom of activity. People want to have, they want to hold, they want to possess, they want to enjoy, and they can't enjoy unless they're self-motivated to enjoy. And so most of us, ordinary people, we want life itself. We want happiness. We want success. We want honor. Again, dharma. We want honor. We want goodness. Everybody, as I've said on occasion when speaking directly about dharma, when the talk was about dharma, that nobody wants to be thought of as a bad person. Even the murderer will go to great lengths to explain why they had to murder this person and why this was the right thing and why it needed to be done. What are they doing? They're trying to justify it. And what does justify it mean? It means why it was the honorable thing to do. I had to do that because it was the honorable thing to do, because they deserved it and they needed to die. And so everybody wants honor, even in such a perverse way. And so we want that. And so that means that most people are seeking not death, but seeking life. And that's natural. And that is encouraged. And so in the Hindu tradition, they have the two paths of pravritti dharma and nivritti dharma. Pravritti means going outward, circling outward. That is, seeking fulfillment in life. Seeking fulfillment here in this life by living, by succeeding, by having, by holding, by enjoying. But the Hindu Shastras say that if you do that, but remain committed to dharma, to righteousness, to the morality, then you want to be led downward. If you just go out to enjoy, to have, to possess, to enjoy without dharma, then it's going to lead to destruction, to your destruction and to society's destruction. People may say that, well, many people who do that seem to prosper in the world. That's because you don't see inside of them, and because you don't see the whole picture. You see that for the time being, they seem to be on top of the world, raping and pillaging and ruling over others and trying to possess everything and enslaving other people. It looks like for the time being that they're on the top of the world. Even at the time they're doing it, if you could see into their hearts, you would see blackness everywhere. You would see nothing but blackness. And then if you saw the long-term results of that, the karmic results, then you would see that no, there's no happiness in that. There's no success in that. Even at the time when they seem to be on the top of the world, there's nothing but blackness inside. You can't live like that and have the mind in a refined state. And if the mind is not in a refined state, there's no possibility of peace. And if there's no possibility of inner peace, there's no possibility of inner joy. And so the Shastras, the scriptures say that if a person wants to enjoy life, yes, go forward. Good. Look at this vast universe. Look at all of the fields of experience. Look at all of the things that we can learn, all of the things that we can know, all of the things that we can do. Yes, go for it. But hold on to dharma. Hold on to morality. Be truthful. Be honest. Be straightforward. Be strong in morality. Be unselfish. Unselfish not in the weak sense. Unselfish in the, I don't need to think about myself because I'm okay. Because I have learned to love others. Because I've learned to include others within myself. So being unselfish means making myself bigger. Not concerned just with this. And so yes, go forward, but go forward with dharma. Go forward, enjoy the world, possess, enjoy, but with dharma. And then there's the other path, nivritti. That is when you turn away from the world and want to seek moksha. The four purusharthas, the four goals of human life are dharma, righteousness, morality, etc. Kama, sense desire, fulfillment of sense desire, that is, not the desire itself, but the fulfillment of sense desire. And artha, the fulfillment of the desire to possess. And then fourth is moksha, liberation. Now for one on pravritti marga, moksha, liberation, that's a distant goal. Yes, it's there, but it's a distant goal. Nivritti begins when you say, no, this isn't enough. This isn't enough. No matter if I possess the whole universe, it's not enough. So there's a transitional period, a large transitional period. And most, and probably all of you who are here are in that transitional period. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You'd be out doing something fun, having a fun time. And relaxing and going for entertainment and so forth. You're here because something says that there has to be something more. And so there we're sort of combining the two. We're not done yet with pravritti, but we're not ready completely for nivritti, and that's a very good stage. That has to come. That has to come where we want something more, but we're not done with this. You can't give this up just because you decided, well, this isn't enough. You only can give this up when you begin to have a foothold somewhere else. You can't just be in no man's land. You can't be in a vacuum. And so nivritti again begins, you begin to put a foot in that side of the path when you realize that this isn't enough. When we begin to feel the weight of time, and the weight just of experience, the weight just of experience, and the weight of the challenges of which are always there. Especially when we're young, we have tremendous vitality. And so we've faced the problems of life, though young people have a very hard time too. Young people have their own share of suffering and difficulty. And actually, as I've said before, studies have consistently shown, study after study, have shown that people after 60 are much happier than younger people. Until you become so disabled by infirmities that you're just in pain. That's a different thing. But as long as you're operable, people are happier after 60 than they are when they're younger. And that is true. But when we begin to feel the weight of experience, then we begin to turn to nivritti. And Kali is an image which incorporates everything. Kali is the most comprehensive religious image ever devised, ever thought of. The most, not that everyone is going to become a Kali Bhakta, no. That's why they're different deities, that's why they're different religions and so forth. So no, everyone is attracted to different things. For some people, it's the beauty of Krishna playing the flute. For some, it's the nobility of Rama. For some, it's the Christian God or Jesus or the Buddha nature and the attainment of nirvana and so forth, or within the Hindu tradition, the attainment of the state of enlightenment, moksha, the union with Brahman. There are all sorts of different ideals, and all of those will always remain. But just judging religious images as religious images, the image of Kali is the most complete image that one could imagine. And for people on pravritti marga, on the outward path, the path of enjoyment and experience and so forth, there also Kali is pertinent. There is Bhadra Kali. Bhadra as in the polite Kali, the nice Kali, the sweet Kali, Bhadra Kali, the kind Kali. You see in Mathur Babu and Rani Rasmani, totally devoted to Kali, the mother, totally devoted. But they were people of the world, people, vast wealth, vast enjoyment, vast success and so forth, but totally devoted to Kali. And so that also Kali is the refuge of those can be the refuge of those on pravritti marga also, and also those on the path of nivritti marga. A time comes when we begin to realize that pravritti marga is based on fear. Or not so much based on fear, but it is intrinsically tied to fear. As I said, most of us, we want life, we want happiness, we want possession, reasonable possession, we want enjoyment, we want to know, we want to experience and all of that. But it's tied to, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to fail. I don't want dishonor. I don't want people to misunderstand me. Even a small little thing, if in a social interaction, someone misunderstands us, misinterprets our motives or something, we feel so terrible, and that's natural. Again, the things I'm talking about are not good or bad, these are natural things. We feel so upset when somebody misunderstands our motives. We're trying to do something good and somebody thinks that our motive is otherwise. We're trying to manipulate things, or we're trying to get ahead, or we're trying to please somebody so that we can get ahead. All we wanted to do was to help somebody, to do something good, and people misunderstand. So we have a fear of loss of life, fear of loss of happiness, fear of loss of the good things of life. Oh. Okay. Okay, working. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so we have that fear of the opposite of that which we desire. And time comes when the weight of that fear also is something that we want to go beyond. So let me say that before I go on with the image of Kali, that the image of Krishna, the image of Rama, the image of Shiva, the image of Durga, the image of Jesus, the image of Buddha, and other world religious ideals. All of them are good, and people on Nivritti Marga also have followed that image. But Swami Vivekananda had great love for the image of Kali because of the symbolism involved. Not just because of the symbolism. For him, Mother Kali was a reality. Mother Kali was real to him and his experience. He felt that every step was guided by Mother Kali after Sri Ramakrishna had dedicated him to Kali. But he never presented Kali as an ideal for others, that others should take. But what Kali represented, he had great love for, because it's a comprehensive ideal, and an ideal which is extraordinarily dynamic and which makes us face life as it is, rather than trying to make life what I want it to be. I want life, but someday death comes. I want success, but sometimes I fail. I want honor, but sometimes people misunderstand me. And sometimes I may even be dishonored in spite of my efforts to retain honor. And so that desire for the good things of life is tied to the fear of the bad things of life. But facing Kali is facing life as it is. That's why the image of Mother Kali is naked. She doesn't wear a sari. In fact, Kali is everything that a traditional Indian woman is not supposed to be. Kali is the opposite of what an Indian woman is supposed to be. And that also is deliberate. Not to present an ideal, well, now try to be like Kali. No. But the shock value of Kali, the shock value. And so she's naked because she's the naked truth. Nothing is covered. Nothing is hidden. Kali is the naked truth. Kali is the giver of life, and Kali is the giver of death. Kali is the giver of success. Kali is the giver of failure. Kali is the giver of everything. So, to the soul who's ready to face Kali, and I put air quotes as they're called nowadays, Kali meaning the ideal which Kali represents. Again, whether you worship Krishna or Shiva or just God as Ishvara or God as the formless reality or whatever, it doesn't matter. But the truth which Kali represents. And from now on, I'll speak of Kali, but just remember that I'm speaking of the truth that Kali represents, whatever your idea of God is. So eventually we find sometime in our spiritual life, once we begin to turn our interest towards spiritual life, a time comes, and let it come naturally. You don't have to force these things. In fact, you can't really force it. We have to go through various experiences before these ideas ripen. But eventually a time comes where we say, no, I'm not running after anything anymore. Yes, things inside of me make me run after things, but of my will, I'm not going to run after things. Of my conscious determination, I'm not going to run after things, and I'm not going to run away from things. I'm going to take my stand here itself, in the here and now. I'm going to be stable here. Let the world swirl around me. Let time pass by me. I'm going to be timeless. Sitting here in the midst of time, I'm going to be timeless. When I do my japa, when I do my meditation, let time pass. No, I'm sitting in a timeless moment. So yes, of course, we're not there yet, and so time catches up with us. We do a little japa and the mind gets tired and we want to get up. Yes, that's natural. But that conviction that no, I'm going to try to sit here in the timeless moment. Let the whole universe swirl around me. Let the universe itself come and let it go. I'm not going anywhere. I am here to face reality. I'm here to face the truth. Then we embrace the real Kali. So let me deal a little bit with her image, which all of you are familiar with. the symbology of her, the symbolism of her image. As I said, she's naked as the four directions. She's clothed with the four directions, digambara, as the Sanskrit has it, clothed with the four directions, because she's the naked truth. And her hair, rather than being braided, as a married woman traditionally was, her hair is flowing loose, because it's the loose flow of time. The loose flow of time, representing the loose flow of time. Kali means black, and it also means she who is time, she who is the controller of time, she who is black, and she who is the controller of time. She's black, why? She's black because she's the nivritti, she's the withdrawal of everything. White is the blending or the union of all colors. Black is the absence of color, the withdrawal of color. So Kali is the withdrawal of all of the colors. She is the nirguna, that which is beyond all qualities, all aspects. And yet she manifests this universe which is saguna, made of all of the gunas, made of all of the qualities. She has of course, a sword in one of her left hands and a severed head in the other left hand. And as Swami Vivekananda said, to cowards, that's the head of a demon. She's killing demons to protect us from evil. But the deeper symbolism is that that's my own head. She severed my own head. She is the bringer of death. She is the dark mother always gliding near with soft feet, the soft feet of Mother Kali. She's the one who brings death. What does that mean? Does that mean that she's a murderess? She's a demoness? She's horrible? She's Kali the terrible? Well, she is Kali Karali the terrible. Ghora, terrible. But no, that's terrible only to relative perception, only because of our fears. She's the mother. She's not the chastising mother. She's not the punishing mother. She's not the angry mother. She's the all-loving mother. So on one side, she's severing my own head, bringing death. But she's showing on the other side, Abhaya Mudra, fearlessness. Don't fear. Fear not, because I, Kali, am your mother. I am your mother. So what fear is there? So as this beautiful poem of Walt Whitman says, she takes the soul into the ocean, the warm ocean of her loving self, the nectar-like warm ocean of her loving self. There's nothing to fear. Embrace the dark mother with confidence, fearlessly. And she's giving boons as well. She's the one who gives boons. She gives fearlessness from fear, and she gives death. So the larger meaning is that she gives life and she gives death. What we want on the one side, the giving of boons, that includes the boon of life. But she also gives death. And so she's the giver of everything. So if we can look life straight in the face, we need not run from anything, because the mother's sweet face, not the mother's angry face, mother's sweet face is behind everything. Mother's sweet face is within everything, within every experience, good and bad. If we look back over our lives, we'll see how that has worked. We look back over our lives and we see how many things, how our lives fall into patterns. Looking forward, we see nothing but random choices, and we have no idea where we're going, what's going to happen, what the results of the choices will be. But when we look backwards, all of us can see that there was a pattern that was established without our knowing it in our life. And we've been through so many difficulties. We've been through many good times, yes, and we've been through so many difficulties. Both were given by the mother, and both have made us what we are now. But if we recognize that the mother is behind all of it, then we go unfalteringly. Then we go unfalteringly, not seeking death, but seeking the mother. And so I want to relate an anecdote which may be completely false. I've been able to find no supporting evidence for it. But there was a man when I lived in India back in the 70s and early 80s. So this would have been around 1978, I believe. There was a man in India who wrote an article and published it in a journal which used to come out at that time called The Organizer, which we used to get at Mayavati. And in that article, he said that he had heard an incident from Swami Nikhilananda of our Vedanta Society, of the Ramakrishna Order, the one who translated the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna into English. He said that he had heard this incident from Swami Nikhilananda on one of this latter's visits to India many, many years before. And so by 1978, Swami Nikhilananda had been dead for about 4 or 5 years. And so I couldn't ask him. I did write to the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center in New York, which he had founded, and asked, and didn't get a reply if anyone knew about this incident, and asked others also. Nobody had ever heard it. So it may be untrue. But it may also be true, and it certainly rings, has the sound of something that might have happened with Swamiji. So the story goes like this. A young man, a European of some type, I don't know what nationality he belonged to, but he was a noble. He was a nobleman, not a king or a prince, but of some nobility, a baron or something like that. He heard Swami Vivekananda speaking, and whether it was supposedly in America, though it could have been in England, but this man remembered that he'd heard him speaking in America and was deeply impressed with Swami. So he went to the Swami and told him that I want to be your follower. And Swamiji says, if you want to follow me, you must embrace death. And the young man was shocked. And we thought, no, I'm not ready for that. I'm a young man, I'm a baron, I've got wealth, the life is in front of me. And so he politely made conversation and went his way. So many years later, World War I broke out. And he was in World War I as a soldier. And one day there was one of the terrible battles in World War I. World War I was a horrible war. They always said that it was the war to end all wars because it was so terrible that no one would dare enter into war again. And of course, it was only 20 years later that, a little over 20 years later, that there was another terrible war. And it wasn't long before there were all these small wars, Vietnam and all kinds of other things, and they're still going on wars. So the war to end all war, that's never happened yet. But World War I was a terrible, terrible war where so many millions of people died, and uselessly. It was a useless war, a terrible war, a war of great suffering for so many people. And so this young man, now he wasn't so young, he was closer to middle age, or he was middle age now. One day in a terrible battle in World War I, he saw all of his soldiers, all lying dead on the battlefield. Death and destruction everywhere. There's countless bodies lying everywhere, as we see them in pictures sometimes, starting from the Civil War in the United States, where a photographer took many battle scene pictures. And so since the time of the Civil War, we've had actual photographs of battlefields. And to see them in photographs, it's terrible, but imagine being there. The people that you yourself had fought alongside of, people that were dear to you, people that you were fighting to protect, and that you felt responsible because he was an officer, felt responsible for protecting. And the battlefield, this vast battlefield of destruction. And of course, by this time, they had powerful armaments, leaving huge craters all around the battlefield, and bodies in all states of dismemberment and so forth. And as he walked through the battlefield, he suddenly had an experience. What the experience was, this man didn't know, but he had an experience. And so then when the war was over, he came to New York. And there he wanted to find Swami Vivekananda if he was still alive. And so he found the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center in New York and came and met Swami Nikhilananda and told him his story and said, now I understand what the Swami meant. Now I'm ready to follow him. Now I know what he meant. I'm ready to follow him. But of course, he was told that the Swami had died 20 years earlier. And so, again, I haven't been able to find anyone who can confirm that this is true. There's only one man who says that he heard it from Swami Nikhilananda, but it sounds so much like Swami Vivekananda, like Jesus, who told the young man who came to him to take up your cross, that go and sell all that you have. The young man who was rich in the pride of youth, he came and wanted to be a follower of Jesus, and Jesus told him to go sell all that you have, give to the poor, and take up your cross and follow me. Take up your cross. That is, take up the cross of crucifixion and follow me. And the young man couldn't do it. And so with Swamiji, at least it's a beautiful story, and it rings true of Swamiji. Whether it actually happened or not, we can't say. But let me read now this poem of Swamiji, Kali the Mother, which he wrote in a state of ecstasy when he was in Kashmir in September 1898. He was alone in the houseboat in Kashmir. Others, Sister Nivedita, Mrs. Bull, Josephine MacLeod, and the servants, they had all gone out. When they returned, they found Swamiji collapsed on the floor. So at the end of this, written in a state of ecstasy, he fell unconscious on the floor. So he says, the stars are blotted out. The clouds are covering clouds. It is darkness vibrant, sonant. In the roaring, whirling wind are the souls of 1,000,000 lunatics just loosed from the prison house, wrenching trees by the roots, sweeping all from the path. So see the picture which Swamiji is drawing here. The souls of a 1,000,000 lunatics loosed from the prison house, that which we're most afraid of, that all of the demonic criminal elements will be set loose and no one will be safe. The sea has joined the fray and swirls up mountain waves to reach the pitchy sky. So the black sky and the waves of the ocean being mounting higher and higher. The flash of lurid light, that is a flash of lightning. The flash of lurid light reveals on every side 1,000,000 shades of death, begrimed and black, scattering plagues and sorrows, dancing mad with joy. Come, mother, come. So in the midst of this scene, he sees the mother, Mother Kali, dancing mad with joy. For terror is thy name, death is thy breath, and every shaking step destroys a world forever. Thou time, the all-destroyer, come, mother, come. Who dares misery love, dance in destruction's dance, and hug the form of death. To him the mother comes. Now, what a tremendous poem that is. Frightful to the ordinary person. If we actually think about it, it can be terrifying to actually think about it. So not that this is the ideal everyone should put in front of them, but think of the heroic heart who could do that, and Swamiji who could do that. Just think of the nobility of the ideal, the greatness of the ideal, the tremendous strength, the tremendous power of one who can stand still in the midst of that, in the midst of this vision, with their awareness still, and then worship Mother Kali. So this is, yes, the terrible form of Mother Kali. But how does one stand still in the midst of this terrible vision? Only by recognizing that she is mother. She's not the mother. She is mother. My mother. Just mother. The mother puts her out there. Oh, she is the mother. No, not the mother. Simply mother. She is mother. And she it is that we worship. So the Swamiji's uniquely dynamic idea. Swamiji made religion and spirituality so dynamic, so powerful. The path of knowledge was Brahman is the absolute reality. This universe doesn't exist, and so just immerse yourself in Brahman. There's no dynamism there. In Brahman, there's not even Shakti. There's no Divine Mother, there's no Maya, there's no activity, there's no thought. It's the very absence of dynamism. It's just infinite silence, infinite wisdom, infinite bliss, but infinite silence, infinite non-manifestation. But Swamiji's genius was to make even that dynamic, to make even that a path of strength and a path of power, a path of manifestation of the divinity within, manifesting it within the human person, manifesting the power of the infinite. Yes, the infinite in itself is beyond all manifestation, beyond all questions of power or anything else. But when that is joined to the human heart, when it's manifested in a human being, it becomes the source of all power. Then the nirguna becomes the potential of the saguna. And so Swamiji made the path of knowledge dynamic. He made the path of devotion dynamic. And he made the path of the worship of Kali dynamic. In Swamiji, you see a new idea of the worship of Kali. A new idea of the worship of Kali. And again, not that it's for everyone, but Swamiji loved this idea of fearlessness. If the one thing the two words which are the same thing, the two words which you find Swamiji loved most and used most were strength and fearlessness. Strength and fearlessness. In the midst of life, let us take our stand and face life fearlessly. Face life fearlessly. Because life is nothing but mother. And mother for each one of us. This is mother. This is mother. Mother is everything. And so let me conclude by saying that Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, there's an incident that I often refer to where Sri Ramakrishna was saying that all of this is mother's play. And a devotee wasn't apparently a close devotee, though a close devotee could have asked it, but there was no indication in the text that it was a close devotee, just someone in the audience. Someone asked him, "But sir, this may be Mother Kali's play, but it's our suffering." And then Sri Ramakrishna said, "Yes, but who are you? Who are you?" Meaning, we are the mother. My experience is the experience of mother. Mother is not out there doing something to me. Mother is in here experiencing the world through me. My joy, my sorrow is the joy and sorrow of mother. But she's the infinite. She sees through the hearts of everyone. And anything that becomes infinite, because it's unlimited, it becomes bliss itself. So even sorrow, even suffering, even destruction is nothing but bliss seen from the standpoint of the infinite. And so our problem is that I see my little personal joys and sorrows as supremely important, yes, but all limited to my little self. If I could expand beyond that, then even sorrow would be blissful. Even destruction would be blissful, would be illuminating, would be liberating. And so both with Whitman in his way and with Swamiji in his way, let us welcome the mother. Come, O mother, come. So with that, I'll close. And I don't want to ask for questions now, so let me give a closing chant and then announcements. Om Dyo Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithvi Shanti, Apa Shanti, Oshadaya Shanti, Vanaspataya Shanti, Vishwe Deva Shanti, Brahma Shanti, Sarvam Shanti, Shantireva Shanti, Sama Shantiredhi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace is in the heavens, peace is in the sky, peace is on earth, peace is in the waters, peace in the plants and the trees. The gods are peace. Peace is the nature of truth. All is peace. Peace alone, peace. May that peace, real peace, be with us all. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all the beings of the universe. So for announcements,